So today let's going to start. We're going to show you the remaining of the Aung San Suu Kyi's address in New York. So, and then after that, I'm going to move into Bhutan. Those people, Nepalese Bhutanese, they kicked out from Bhutan in 1980s. So we're going to show you two videos. So first of all, we're going to show you the remaining portion of Aung San Suu Kyi address in New York. Okay, this is Myanmar leader Aung San Suu Kyi delivered an address at Asian Society in New York on her country's political and economic development. Following her remarks, she engaged in a wide-ranging discussion with Kevin Ladd, the president of Asia Society Policy Institute and the former Prime Minister of Australia. Okay? Just try to remember for you, アウン・サン・スー・キー現政府における考えで、独立は1949年、1969年に民主主義を失って、2010年の時の 80% 議員が軍の関係者で、ずっと軍政だったんですよね。で、議員が軍の関係者で政治を占めていた。で、その時、我々の選挙活動が始まった。NLD が設立され30年経った。2012年に補欠選挙で彼女当選した。で、ただ軍が憲法改正していて 20% を選挙なしで議席を占めるという。で、憲法改正は3分の2。で、いずれにしても、どんな頑張っても、この軍が株を持ってる、選挙権を持ってるんで、彼女は大統領になれない。で、彼女が求めているのは、食料と医療じゃなくて、民主主義のための責任と権利をしっかり持つということだということで、経済の前に我々は平和を確保しなければならない。平和がなければ何も始まらない。最大の経済失業だ。失業をどうするか。未来の若者が海外で稼ぎに出ているけど、国内産業を起こすことによって今失業率を改善したい。国が貧しいので中国のようにはいかない。それともアジアやアメリカの投資によって経済を変える。で、それで彼女はニューヨークで、前やった時のアフガニスタンの、誰だっけ。女性のプレゼンテーションもそうだけど、結局、海外のトップの方はニューヨークで講演するんですよね。で講演して、アメリカの支援をもらう。そういうことで、今回はこれ彼女は、2016年の9月、ちょうど1年前にやってるんですね。で、今回だから、イスラムの、ロヒンギャの連中が、同時に何十か所警察署を襲ったんですよね。で、あれをしなければ別に、何もなかったんだけど、襲ったために、軍が出動して、全部焼き払っちゃったっていう。だから、彼女自身は世界で批判されてるんですけど、まあ、それはやっぱり軍が攻撃したっていうのはやっぱり、イスラム教徒の連中にはまっちゃったっていうのが正しい答えですね。だから、それで世界から批判をされるように、イスラム教徒はそういう仕掛けをした。誰が背景に動いてるのかちょっとわかんないけど、過激かもしれないけど、そういうふうに放棄して勝てるわけないのに、わざわざ放棄させた。で、それで徹底的に殺されたっていうのは事実で。で、アウン・サン・スー・チーはとばっちり受けたわけで、で、国民がやっぱ今回放棄して、警察官殺したりしちゃったんで、それで国民は、まあみんな仏教徒だから、ロヒンギャに対して敵対意識を持つようにしちゃったんですよね。だから彼女はそれに対して反論できないんだけど、本当は彼女は冒頭から反論するべきだったんだけど、理由は何だかよくわかんないけどしなかった。それで、結局一番負けくじを引いたのはアウン・サン・スー・チー。というのが結論ですよね。で、このビデオっていうのは、彼女が、講演した時は、今の彼女の正反対のことを彼女言ってるんですよね。でも、アウン・サン・スー・チーを落とし込めるためにこれをやったのかもしれないよね。 誰かが仕掛けた。で、僕の考えとしては、彼女はああいう性格だから、この人を失脚させるために、今回のロヒンギャの事件を引き起こしたんじゃないかなっていうのを最近思って。
軍部側ってことですか？軍部側ですか？
いや、もしそうすれば軍部よっぽど頭いい。で、ロヒンギャの連中に仕掛けて、暴動を起こさせて、殺した。で、暴動を起こさせて仕掛けてって、ロヒンギャは、結局、あいつら頭悪いから、教養もないし、だから今言った仏教徒に対して抵抗を、争いを起こして、それで仕掛けて、やればね、よくなる、ラカインっていうラカインステートなんてよくなるわけないんだけど、それを仕掛けたんですよね。で、それに対して軍部が徹底的に、虐殺、ジェノサイドしちゃったわけですよね。で、アウンサンスーチーがどういうふうに出るかっていうのは、多分軍部は分かってたんだよね。だから、軍部が仕掛けたのかもしれない。イスラム教徒の限りじゃないんですよね。多分軍部が仕掛けた罠にアウンサンスーチーがハマっちゃったっていうのは、多分正解かもしれない。これはだから、面白い、ケーススタディだと思う。まあ、あんまりこういうケースはないんだけど、今回はアウンサンスーチーがハマっちゃって、彼女はいずれにしても、ダメになっちゃうんですよね。これだから最近のビデオは、先週見せたんだね、最近の彼女の。で、今回今週もローマ法王が訪問してて、で直接彼女を攻撃しなかったけど、でもどう考えたって、世界中から彼女に対して反対意見が出てる。で、このビデオを見ればわかるように、彼女は、今の彼女の行動に全く正反対のことを言ってるんですよ。Okay, let's go to start. It's very interesting.
From the international community, and then when you don't want them to point out that perhaps you're not doing things right, then you say, well, don't come and interfere in our domestic problems. I don't think that if we are doing right, we need to fear anybody's scrutiny. And this is what I said this morning.
So she said that we are doing right. We don't need to fear anybody's scrutiny. That's all?
At the United Nations. This is with regard to the situation in the Rakhine, in which I think
Rakhine, Rohingya, Rakhine state.
Many of you are interested. And it's a big problem because we want harmony and we want peace and we want progress. The Rakhine is a poor state.
She said very true. The very poor state, Rakhine very state, and peace, and we need to talk with them. This is true.
The Rakhines are poor, the Muslims, they are poor. And we want everybody there to be safe and secure. Now, what we've been trying to do is to find a way of relieving communal tension and putting an end to communal strife. And to that purpose, we created a commission headed by Dr. Kofi Annan, because this is a matter...
Okay, Kofi Annan, he's a United Nations person, originally came from South Africa, and he's in charge for how to handle the Rakhine strife, assigned by United Nations.
The international community has been interested for quite a number of years. It became an issue that was discussed in the United Nations as long ago as 2010. So we need somebody with an international stature to head the commission. That
そのビスケット美味しいよ。俺、その箱に入ってる。手前の。星野さん、この間俺俺食べたけど、さっき1個。チョコレート。
It's meant to look into the real problems that are causing the Rakhine state. And of course, some political parties started protesting against this. And they said that we were dragging, by appointing a foreigner, Dr. Kofi Annan, as the head of the commission, and including other foreigners, because there are two others, we were dragging a domestic issue onto the international stage. Well, we explained that it had been on the international stage for some time, and we had not been able to do anything about it. And that we're not afraid of international scrutiny. Why should we be afraid of international scrutiny if we're doing what is right? We should not be afraid of any scrutiny if we believe that we are doing what is right.
And Kofi, as you say,
She said, okay, we are doing what is right. She believes she's doing what is right, and because she just, Rakhine and Rohingya attacked military and police of the Myanmar government, so she just that's the reason that the other way around. Okay.
he is not exactly inexperienced. He's a person with phenomenal experience. And it's not unique for a country to invite someone internationally to work on a particular problem at home. On the rest of the peace process within your country, I noticed at the Panglong conference that you had the groundbreaking peace negotiations which commenced not long ago. China also had a role there as a mediator, I presume, in relation to a particular part of the overall domestic disputes and border-related disputes.
I'm not quite sure what you mean by saying a role as a mediator, because I don't think we have this role for anybody except members of the National Reconciliation and Peace Center.
Let me put it more broadly. In terms of international help, can the Chinese be of help?
Everybody can be of help. It's not just the Chinese, and we can't welcome help from anybody who's in a position to promote peace in our country. From the Chinese, from the Australians, from the Americans, whoever is interested in truly promoting peace in our country. Because there are some groups which are not really interested in peace. They are only interested in their influence with regard to the peace process.
On the broader relationship with your neighbours, and I'll pursue just for a moment, let's say the economic relationship with a very large neighbour, China, an economy which affects, frankly, most economies represented in this room. Certainly for my country, Australia, it's our largest economic partner. Going back to well before you were formally in office in 2011, we had the suspension of that very large dam project, the Maitsone Dam, I think, if my pronunciation is vaguely
Yes,
correct. Which is
yes, it's your pronunciation.
Dam is China planning to make dam in northern area of Myanmar, but Myanmar government and dam is very close connection with military to military. Okay, so Aung San Suu Kyi is that this government tried to stop this construction of dam, but actually electricity prepared by dam is actually 100% was sold to planning to the Chinese utility. That's the reason, major reason, because this is the electricity not useful Myanmar people. That's the stripes.
It's very bad.
Yeah, thank you. If you like, I could render it in Mandarin, but and my Mandarin is considerably better than my Burmese, which is
That's no use if you're speaking Burmese.
You're absolutely right, State Councillor. By the way, after you've studied Chinese, your head's full. You just don't go on to other languages. It's gone. On that dam project, though, which has achieved quite a bit of international publicity, and I see that there are negotiations that you've been having about taking the project forward again with the Chinese. How is all that going? Because it has been a prominent international matter with the international community.
We have established a commission to look into this, and this commission is made of experts. It's headed by the Deputy Speaker of our lower house, who is the Kachin, and of course, as those who have been following the dam negotiations will know that it was going to be situated in the Kachin state. So he heads the commission, and there are many experts. They're experts in the environment, on water management, on engineering, various aspects of the Nissan project, and they will all, well, I'm not a member of the commission. They will be looking into this matter. Then we have experts on contracts, on social impact on the environment, etc. Many issues which need to be
Oh, Dam is also, I forget that she said environment issues.
addressed. And they will look into this matter, and they will come up with a report. And we will be guided by the report of this commission.
Well, that sounds like a sound process, looking at all dimensions of what, certainly in my experience at dam projects, are multifaceted, multi-community impacts, etc. In this audience tonight, we have people who are from across the US business community and investment community, people who know the world and people who either are doing business in your country or the wider Southeast Asian region, or who want to. In terms of the economic strategy for your country, perhaps you could spend just a few minutes explaining how you see that unfolding and what particular interests you have as a nation in attracting foreign direct investment.
Well, I had to speak to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the U.S. ASEAN Business Council while I was in Washington. So I don't want to repeat all the things that I said there. But if you're interested, I think perhaps you could get a copy of what I said to them. But we have not yet finished the process, but we have submitted the draft of our investment law to the legislature, and we hope that it will be endorsed very soon and that it will become a law. Previously, we had two investment laws, one for foreigners and one for domestic businessmen, the Foreign Direct Investment Law and the Domestic Investment Law. And this is not pleasing to many of our prospective investors. And we decided that we would have to change it and we would have to have one investment law. And this is now, I understand, in the hands of the legislature. They will be going through it, so I can't really tell you exactly what it's going to be like, because in the end, lawmaking is the responsibility and the prerogative of the legislature. They may amend bits of it, they may reject bits of it, or they may pass the whole as it has been submitted to them. So the investment law that is going to come out very soon will give you a good idea of what to expect if you want to invest in a country. Our economic policy also we have brought out. The main thrust of our economic policy is job creation, because we need that if we are to develop as quickly as possible. There is a high level of unemployment and a lot of hidden employment. We do not even have proper figures to tell us how bad it is. But the fact that so many of our people are going over the border as illegal migrant workers to countries like China and of course mostly to Thailand and Malaysia, this tells us that unemployment is a big problem. Our families are breaking up. You see many villages where young men of strong working age are no longer there. So many. I met some young men who had been working in Malaysia as illegal migrants for about 8 years, and they had never seen a city before they came to Rangoon. I said, "You were in Malaysia for 8 years. Haven't you been to a city?" They said, "No." They went across the border through Thailand, they found their way to Malaysia. They were taken straight to a plantation, and there they've been working for 8 years, and they haven't seen a city. They've never been to KL. They were astounded by Rangoon, and of course we were astounded that people who had lived in Malaysia were astounded by the urbanness of Rangoon, if you like. And this is how our people have to earn a subsistence living. They send money back to their families, and the families manage to build themselves little houses, but they don't get to setting up businesses that will allow them men to come back and to live with them. So we need to create jobs. Everywhere I went, they told me our greatest need is jobs.
In creating those jobs of the future, a few of us were at dinner last night with Jack Ma. In fact, it was the night before. And Jack, Chinese entrepreneur, internet finance, going into a whole bunch of smaller rural communities in China, sees this as a gateway and a door to open up micro-business and small business opportunities in poorer regional areas across China. And there's some reasonably good data to suggest he's succeeding. Do you see a parallel possibility opening in your own country for the people that you've just described?
Is the parallel mean by similar?
Parallel. Not exactly the same, because our situation is different from the Chinese situation. And whatever we do, we must not lose sight of the fact that we want to build up a democratic federal union, which is to say that in some instances we have to put political considerations before economic ones. For example, it would be much easier to set up some businesses in those parts of the country which are more developed, which have better infrastructure. But for political reasons, we must make sure that investment goes to the ethnic areas as well, which are less developed and which have fewer infrastructure facilities. So we can't look at our country in the way in which you look at other countries. Now, China was all right with regard to infrastructure, for example, the roads. Now, we are very poor on all-weather roads. Burma is a monsoon country, and a lot of our roads get washed away for 5 months of the year. That's just not good enough. We need weatherproof roads for our people throughout the country, not just in the main areas where the majority Burmese ethnic group live, but for all the other ethnic areas as well.
It's a very large country. I've been there a few times.
And when you look at China, you wouldn't say Burma is very large.
I'm Australian. We're big on the map as well. But no, it's a big country by Southeast Asian standards.
It's the biggest in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, and it's a big population. And many of us look with great optimism and enthusiasm to how not just the democracy will consolidate itself, but the economy emerge as well. Are you getting support from your ASEAN colleagues in your national mission? ASEAN's been part and parcel of the building of a regional economy. Is that network of relationships helping you in your economic task?
We have good relations with our ASEAN neighbours. I was in Thailand recently, and we had very good discussions with regard to the problem of our workers there, and we have decided that it's time the border was marked out properly so that there are no unnecessary problems. So we are establishing better relations with them.
Well, I think the remarkable history of ASEAN as I've seen it is a bunch of countries who 30 or 40 years ago were at each other's throats, now working extraordinarily cohesively together.
Were we at each other's throats? I wasn't aware of that. I don't think we were really at each other's throats.
By which I mean the former Southeast Asia before ASEAN came into being.
No, even then, I don't think our relation, the internal relationship of the region was that bad.
I was referring to communist Indochina, CETO and all those things, and ASEAN has been a great integrating force.
I would have thought there were greater problems between Indochina and America than between Indochina and us.
And I wasn't even going to go there. But now that you mentioned Uncle Sam, because there are a few Americans in the audience.
I'm glad there are some.
Yeah, yeah. And my experience of having lived in New York now for a couple of years is that your country has an extraordinarily high profile in the minds of the American people, and therefore a deep interest in what this country can do in their economic and broader engagement with Burma into the future. I see the President last week announced his intentions of lifting the remaining sanctions on Myanmar, easing barriers to trade and supporting US $10 million in loans to small business in Myanmar. For the US government, if I could be quite specific about that, what would you like to see more coming from Washington as far as your country's future is concerned?
I'm very pleased with what they have been doing so far, and I appreciate everything they've done. I'm very glad sanctions have been lifted. There are those who think that it's still too early, but I don't, because as I explained to Congress, sanctions were like a crutch which we needed. But now what we need is physiotherapy, so we can get onto our feet without the crutches. We need empowerment. And the United States government has been doing everything they can to help us. I appreciate that, and I hope that our relationship will get better, that our friendship will be cemented over the years to come, and that we can work together. There's nothing I can say in criticism of what the U.S. has been not doing for us. They've done as much as they are able to do, and I believe in gratitude. I'm grateful to our friends for all that they have.
Okay, those developing countries are so serious to get the money from the United States, and many countries compete with each other. Right? That's the reason why she said at each other's throat, so battle against each other. So she herself is very famous person, so she can get a lot of money from the United States. So she saw this is right
Done for
at
us,
that time.
and I'm doing for us. And I really don't want to go on saying we want more and more and more. I always say to my people, I don't want you to be a people with your hands out. I want you to be a people who appreciate what's given to you, but you take it in order to make yourself strong enough not to need help in the future.
What a marvellous sentiment. A spirit of thankfulness in international relations rather than some of the other principles or practices we often hear and see. Finally, State Councillor, in your transition to democracy, and you've referred constantly to parliamentary commissions working on this, that and the other, and it's new, and you've got a whole bunch of new members of Parliament. Give me a sense of how the Parliament itself is beginning to shake down to its new life. Here in the United States, they have something called filibusters. They're kind of fun to watch. I'm not sure they're fun to be in. In Australian parliaments, we don't have filibusters, we just have fisticuffs. So parliamentary democracies are a many and varied thing. How's yours evolving? And internally, how are the relationships proceeding within the institution?
Well, apart from the fact that, of course, 25% of the members of our parliaments are not elected, I think they're getting on well.
Okay, 25%, he said army, okay? Not
Some
elected.
of our regulations and some of our procedures might seem a bit strange to you, but then some of your procedures seem very strange to us. So,
and our procedures seem strange to us.
We're doing
as
well. The legislature, before the elections last year, I would say that the legislature was the most democratic institution in the country, because we had good speakers who were fair, who were even-handed in the treatment of the members of Parliament. And although we were a small majority, we were treated as the main opposition, which we were. There were only 44 of us in the Union legislature, but we were still the party with the largest number of MPs after the USDP, which had the overwhelming majority. So Parliament started really to become democratized, and we are continuing with the process. And I have to say that we have an excellent speaker in the lower house, a good party man, and a very, very, very fine lawyer, and that's important.
Well, knowing the rules of procedure and running a House of Parliament is an art form in itself, as we've seen in all these democracies over time. To conclude, State Councillor, you're among friends here at the
She's a state councillor, okay?
Asian Society. You've been here before. We'd love to have you back again sometime before too many years go by to report on how things are going. So can we see you again?
I'm not going to report to you, but I'd be very happy to speak to you.
We are here to listen.
That's all right. I'd be very, very happy to speak to you again. But I prefer it if it's a two-way conversation.
It's good. Well, we'd enjoy that as
She criticized she had better get question from audience instead of you. It's a two-way conversation.
well, and that's why so many of the questions that I've asked and you've accused me of having a big list here actually come from all these folk out there. So I've sought to do so, representing their interests as well. It's wonderful to see you. It's just a delight to see you in this position of high office which you now hold within your country. For those who have observed your career and your life with admiration for such a long period of time. So, ladies and gentlemen, please show your appreciation to Aung San Suu Kyi.
You're not going to ask them to applause. I don't like this.
She had so confidence at that time. So too much confidence.
It's your right to decide whether you want to applaud or not.
This is where you respectfully remind the State Council of Burma that I'm chairing this meeting. I can ask them to applaud if I want to. It's great to have you. It's great to have you.
That's not democratic. You decide whether you want to applaud or not.
Who wanted to applaud? Anyone here not want to applaud? I hear silence. The democratic process for the evening is concluded. Thank you so much.
Okay, this is a presentation that exactly last year. And this is Aung San Suu Kyi. Yeah, this one is 22 hours before. Oxford.
The vote is unanimous. Oxford City Council takes away the freedom of the city from Aung San.
It's a complicated situation, and we acknowledge that. But we hope that it will give her cause to think about why she was awarded it in the first place, and how she might try to uphold those values in the tightrope that she has to walk now between the military and protecting a very, very oppressed minority people in her country.
Aung San Suu Kyi studied in Oxford in the 1960s. She fell in love, she raised a family here. And when she returned 5 years ago to receive the freedom of the city, she spoke.
I don't know how we're going to get this.
During her most difficult years, Aung San Suu Kyi says she was upheld by memories of Oxford. That this place taught her the value of humankind, a place where no one discriminates against anyone else. Well, now the city that is close to her heart.
Close to her heart.
And it's not just Oxford. At the LSE, the London School of Economics, most of these students were not even born when Aung San Suu Kyi was made honorary president back in 1991. But following this debate earlier this month, they voted to remove her title.
They voted to remove her title.
The bodies that did reward her with honorary awards to call out the fact that she's not speaking out in the face, in light of basically a genocide.
And human rights groups that want
He said genocide.
Aung San Suu Kyi say the public's attitude has changed.
We've seen since 2012 this gradual and increasing sort of disappointment, which is now, since this latest wave of violence and her defence of the military and her denials of what's taking place, has turned to sort of a much more stronger feeling of anger and betrayal.
Okay,
So,
stronger feeling of
did cities
anger.
like Oxford misread Aung San Suu Kyi when they honoured her? Or has she changed into a less tolerant person? In her own words, I am no different now to the young student who was at Oxford, but also I am different because I've had to face different experiences. Barnaby Phillips, Al Jazeera, Oxford.
Okay, so she lose her position at Oxford, City of Oxford. Rex Tillerson came here, okay? And Tillerson talked with her and with military. So this guy tried to settle something, but behind the scene. But this one is, he does not talking about kind of issues, but behind the scene he did something. And 2 weeks ago, who he is? Not this one, Pope came. Okay, 6 months ago, no, 17 hours. Okay, this one.
The Burmese government honorably welcomed Pope Francis to the grandiose city of Naypyidaw. The Pope left a message in the Book of Honor in which he asked for a blessing of peace, justice, and peace. In this enormous room in the presidential palace, Pope Francis held a private meeting with the President of the Republic, Jen Piao. Following the encounter, they exchanged various gifts. The President gave the Pope a painting of Christ and some porcelain wares. Pope Francis presented the President with a copy of an illustrated reproduction of Buddha's life, emanating from the Vatican Library. The gift greatly surprised the head of state. Pope Francis wanted to give the President more information about the reproduction. After the exchanging of gifts, Pope Francis took a photo with the chief executive's family. Also in the presidential palace, the Pope met with Aung San Suu Kyi, State Councilor and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Myanmar. After some official formal photos, the two spoke in private with the help of a translator. Later, they also exchanged various gifts, among which were the 3 main documents from Pope Francis's papacy.
Oh, he doesn't say anything. Huh? Some. Okay, Pope Myanmar speech avoid reference to Rohingya.
Pope Francis has urged Myanmar to respect human rights, justice,
No
and
narrative,
different
just
ethnicities. He watched
English.
public speech on his visit to the country. Myanmar is widely accused this year of ethnic cleansing of Rohingya Muslims. Well, we can cross over to our correspondent Jonathan Head, who's in Yangon for us. Jonathan, as we were saying, the eyes of the world really watching this speech, and it was all going to be down to language.
It was. The Pope had been advised very strongly.
But anyway, that any Christian for Rohingya, okay? So Pope didn't say anything. Okay, so now I'm moving to the next. Still open issues. Still Tillerson persuaded, but he couldn't, I believe. So, I don't know what's going on.
So what is the purpose of US invest in Asia and some country survive
What?
each other? So,
Pope came to meet with Aung San Suu Kyi.
なんでそのミャンマーとかもアメリカからなんかお金を得ようとかっていう動きを、その結果どうなんですか？
出さないよ。 アウン・サン・スー・チーこんな格好してこういうふうにロヒンギャを殺しちゃってるから、アメリカ投資しない。制裁サンクションでしょ、逆に。でそれはだから、さっき言ったように、ミャンマー軍が彼女をはめたんだと思うんですよ。ね。彼女それにはまっちゃったんだ。だから政治的にはやっぱりこの人、あんまり賢くないね。賢くないと思うんだ。僕はずっと考えてて、どうも変だと思ったんだけど、やっぱりそういうことだと思うんですよ。だからその彼女のアドバイザーみたいな人が、大した人がいなかったんですよね。かわいそうにね。こういうふうに例えばリベラルアーツ勉強してればね、僕みたいにこう違うよって言ってあげられるのに、そういう人いなかったのね。政治ってのはやっぱ怖いよね。もう二度と立ち直れなくなっちゃう。Okay, in the Bhutan, and Bhutan, the last part, in the 1990s, Himalayan Shangri-La of Bhutan expelled a sixth of its population. A sixth of its population. Bhutanese, Nepalian Bhutanese. Okay. Today, these refugees are struggling to accept life in exile. これその英語説明ね。ブータン人口現在80万人だけど、ネパール人を1980年代に、10万人以上って書いてる30万人以上なんですね。追い出したの。100万人以上いたの。で、これだからさっきの、ロヒンギャと同じですよね。
ネパール人はネパール人。
ネパール人だけどブータンに住んでたね。今のロヒンギャと一緒ですよ。あれ、だから、ビルマ人じゃない。同じですよ。だから、ロヒンギャは暴動さえ起こさなければ住んでいられたの。暴動起こしちゃったから軍隊が迫害した。まあ軍隊が仕掛けたと思うんだけど、これはそうじゃないの。あれこれ言い訳してネパール人を追い出しちゃった。ね。で、この前のビデオでは、首相とか、王様がかっこいいこと言ってるけど、でも、もともと1980年代、今の王様のお父さんがとんでもなくて、7万5千人が、そう、ひどい。アメリカに移住して、ニューヨーク近く2万人の都市、ロチェスターにね、5千人のネパール系ブータン人が。で、年寄りにとっては移民は必ずしもハッピーじゃない。自殺者がいっぱい出てるのね。アメリカで。なぜかっていうと、ここに自殺率2倍だって書いてある。なぜかっていうと、前の住んでるとこは食べ物もない、水道もない、ガスもない、何もなかったけど、人のコミュニケーションができたのね。ところがアメリカ行ったら言葉は通じないし、殺伐としてるから、自殺しちゃうんですね。で、ブータンは結局ネパールの幸せだったんですよね、ハッピー。で、ブータンの今の、彼らもブータン戻りたいと憧れてるけども、それでもネパールの方がアメリカよりいいっていう、そういう話です。信じられないけど、そうなのね。
Great pleasure to see all of you and to be.
これが2番、パート1。これですね。Okay, let's have a look.
Systematic ethnic cleansing. It's been described as a systematic ethnic cleansing.
Systematic ethnic cleansing. The same as exactly.
In the kingdom of Bhutan, known as the last Shangri-La, 1/6 of the population
1/6 of the population
were driven out of their homes and their country. Overnight, Bhutanese of Nepali origin became stateless.
It's better to be a dog with an identity than a person without one.
More than 100,000 people took shelter in refugee camps in Nepal to live a life in exile.
Actually, they stayed there for 25 years already. Unbelievable.
We stayed in huts made of jungle reeds. It was scorching hot. So many people died of dysentery. We had to handle up to 32 bodies in one day.
Now, after decades of failed negotiations with Bhutan, the camps are empty as the refugees start new lives in other countries. In the first of two special programs, I visit the Beldangi refugee camp in eastern Nepal to listen to their stories.
I'm Sabina Shrestha. On this edition of 101 East, we meet Bhutan's forgotten people who can only dream of returning home.
By a riverbed in eastern Nepal, a family gathers with...
They are not camping here. They are eating like this every day for past 25 years. 25 years. We can believe
share
it.
a meal for the last time.
No school, okay.
This is our last get-together. We might not be able to share a meal like this in the future. I wanted everyone to come together and share a meal with a band. Share songs of our joys and sorrows. Songs are the resting places for tired souls. When your heart is heavy with sorrow, for us of Nepali origin, these songs really are where we rest and restore them.
I don't know how they're going to get money. Maybe United Nations will going to support them, or some NGO give them food. No job, no business.
Savitra Biswa was 27
Unbelievable.
when she was forced to flee Bhutan. Since then, she spent the last 23 years in a refugee
What?
camp in Nepal. Now, she's about to embark on another life-changing journey. She and her family are preparing to settle in the United States.
They are moving to, some of those going to United States.
I had a mother, a father, and a grandfather here in Nepal. I'm leaving them all. This is the very place where I held their last rites. You always remember who gave birth to you. You remember your homeland. Your homeland is the most important thing. I will remember my homeland and my friends. But memories don't make life. You have to do what you have to do. You have to fulfill your destiny.
Savitra is a Lutsampa, a southern Bhutanese of Nepalese origin. She and her family, her son Amal, daughter Radhika, daughter-in-law Durga, and granddaughter Aisha, are stateless. In the late 1980s, the Himalayan kingdom saw the Lutsampas as a threat to the ruling order. The monarchy introduced a campaign of one nation, one people, enforcing the culture and
So one nation, one people. Okay, not Nepalese.
religion of the majority Drukpa community. Bhutan was growing increasingly...
Okay, you have a look, Nepal and Bhutan. Between India. Okay, India support Bhutan, so against Nepal. So Nepal Bhutanese try to move in back Bhutan. India protect them to go into Bhutan.
Really alarmed at the political activism of ethnic Nepalese
This is a problem.
in regions bordering their country. Scholars like Joseph Stradler say Bhutan's rulers were convinced that its own ethnic Nepalese could revolt.
There's a lot of fear because of these Nepali populations who would work with us, and then suddenly you have your own Nepali population becoming political, and I think they reacted due to the fear of what could occur.
Bhutan changed its citizenship laws, requiring proof of land ownership in the government files. And for children to be Bhutanese, both parents had to be registered citizens. Then, in 1988, Bhutan held its first census. Many Lutsampas were suddenly branded illegal immigrants. Royal Government of Bhutan Citizenship Identity Card. Holder of this card is a Bhutanese citizen.
Before, yes, but people can't enter Bhutan without citizenship papers nowadays. But these papers are not valid anymore. If you try to enter with these papers, well, this citizenship doesn't work anymore.
In Bhutan in the late 80s, the human rights situation for the Lhotshampas was growing worse day by day. Protests calling for greater democracy and respect for Nepali rights led to a campaign of violence.
Actually, the same thing happened. They tried to Nepali right for Bhutan government. So Bhutan government decided to kick them out. They are very heavy movement against government.
By the government.
Like this.
And tens of thousands of Lhotshampas fled. But not all were forced out. Dr. Bhankarai was the first qualified surgeon in Bhutan. Among his patients was the royal family. He could have stayed.
People are attracted to the ideas of royalty. But I thought more of the nation and of the people than the royalty. I wasn't evicted by the king or the government, but when I saw so many people of my country being forced to leave, I chose to leave with them in solidarity. I was a very big problem for Bhutan, for the police there. I didn't wear the baku. They had to find others who didn't wear the baku, but they couldn't find me.
Okay, baku is Bhutanese wear, like kimono.
So if they were on patrol and they came across me, they had a big problem. They would complain to the seniors, but never told me directly.
Today,
She is
far
doctor.
from the kingdom's palaces, Dr. Rai gives free medical treatment to refugees.
He accepted to stay in Bhutan.
The government of
But he
Bhutan
didn't.
calls us illegal immigrants. But Bhutan is a country of only migrants.
Dr. Rai says many Lhotshampas families were living in Bhutan centuries before the current royal dynasty came to power in 1907.
To call us who have lived there for so many centuries illegal immigrants, it's a wrong political allegation, and the world does not understand this. Even the Nepalese have the impression that we actually immigrated there illegally and very recently. The government of Bhutan sells off the country and calls us anti-national. The government forces us to leave at the point of a gun and operates state terrorism and calls us terrorists. And yet, the world believes that.
Leaving everything behind, the Lhotshampas crossed the border into India, but they were not welcome. The Indian government picked them up in buses and trucks and transported them to the border with Nepal. India did not want to risk offending Bhutan, which provides them with hydropower for large tracts of the country. The move angered Nepal.
India permitted Bhutanese refugees to come to Nepal, but they did not permit them to go back to Bhutan. India should facilitate and help the Bhutanese refugees to be repatriated. They came through that land and they have to go back through that land.
As the refugees flooded into Nepal, the UN's refugee agencies stepped
Oh,
in.
UN support
7
for food,
camps
huh?
were set up in Chapa, eastern Nepal. Food, water, health and education were all provided. It was a massive and costly operation, and one that has lasted for decades. When resettlement in new countries was offered in 2007, it was a welcome relief for most. But 50,000 refugees were still determined to return to Bhutan and made a last desperate attempt. Indian security forces stopped them on the bridge between Nepal and India. 2 people were killed in the violence that followed. For Sabitra and her family, Bhutan is now just a distant memory.
When we first came here, we dreamt of nothing but Bhutan. We kept clinging on to that hope that we'd return for a while. But it's been 23 years already. Not one person who has waited has been able to go back. If my country doesn't accept me at all, and I can't return home, then what's the use of calling it my country?
The Bhutanese Prime Minister's office denied our request for an interview. So, to find out more, we went to the India-Bhutan border. Southern Bhutan is off-limits to foreigners, and no one knows how many ethnic Nepalese still live there. But we managed to persuade Unno Sampa to cross the border into India to speak to us.
If you glance at it on the surface, it all looks good, but there's a very corrupt plot going on at the deeper level. Bhutan says there are only 100,000 Nepalis here, but there are more than 150 to 200,000 Nepalis who are not even counted in the census. They are non-existent, almost. But people are not being killed or disappeared anymore. Before, we couldn't even find their dead bodies. They were just arrested and taken away. After the Lotsampas left, the government immediately gave the best land and property to the Drukpas. But they haven't given the land out in the areas that are open to international visitors. It seems like they are trying to hide something from international eyes. I've seen too many people suffer and I can't endure it. I want to share it with someone, to pour it out.
Despite these stories, back in Nepal, a few thousand refugees are so attached to the land of their birth, they have not taken up the chance to move abroad.
In this area, there are a few families that are leaving, but most of the families don't want to leave. They are still waiting for repatriation. Whenever there is any news from Bhutan, they rush to listen to it.
Sanjohan Suba was just 6 when he arrived in Nepal. Now 30, he has few memories of Bhutan, but he does have very strong feelings for his country.
Bhutan is my birthplace, and I will never find that anywhere else. That's the final truth, my biggest reality. I feel sad about that, so I still haven't thought of marriage, though I'm 30. Because I would not want my children to be born without identity, stateless, and to have to suffer like a child of the street. I'd rather it ends with me, and I have accepted this pain, and I have decided not to marry. We have had enough hardship for these 23 years, and only the Bhutanese government can rid us of this hardship. Only they have the medicine to heal our wound. No one else has it. I request the Bhutanese government to take us in once again and accept us as their own.
The refugees who are still keen to go back to Bhutan are now faced with a dilemma. They've been told that they only have 3 more months before the option of resettlement closes. With Bhutan still not extending its hand to take back its citizens, the future remains uncertain for the remaining refugees.
In the ideal world, we'd have all those options available and available at any one time, but we don't live in that ideal world, and the only option that we did have available was the resettlement. We have had made a number of demarches with Bhutan over the years. Unfortunately, these have not produced any results.
Despite the uncertainty, there are some who just want to stay in Nepal. But Nepal's government has not signed any refugee conventions and remains unwilling to assimilate the refugees.
Nepal is not the position to integrate them here in Nepal. It is because of three things. Number one, we are not a party of that convention and protocol. Number two, our economy does not permit, our geography does not permit. So we are not to integrate them here in Nepal. But most of them have resettled, and the residual citizens or refugees of Bhutan should go back to their old country. So Bhutan should be flexible enough to repatriate its own citizens. This is our clear stand.
After languishing in the camps and with their dreams of returning home fading, most have already left to start new lives in a new country. The rubble of their demolished homes, the only thing that remains of their lives in Nepal. For Sabitra, the decision to leave was a rational one. She sees a better future for her children in America and has a sister who relocated there last year.
Worry is natural. We're not rocks or stones. I am slightly worried about leaving, but this time I'm leaving by my own accord. Nobody is forcing me to go.
They are going to stay.
Before they can leave, Sabitra and her family must pass their final health checks. Their biggest concern is for Sabitra's daughter Radhika. Radhika contracted TB as a child and has been taking medication for the past 3 years. The infection has to be completely clear before they'll get the health certificates they need to leave. It's good news. Radhika is clear. The International Office of Migration, or IOM, is responsible for ensuring refugees like Sabitra are prepared for the resettlement. At a center near the camp, they're being taught about their rights and responsibilities as refugees in the United States.
मसँग यहाँ के जिम्मेवारीहरू छन् सबैजनाले एउटा एउटा लिनु चाहिँ त्यो जिम्मेवारी अरूको मानव अधिकारको पनि सम्मान
The family is making their final preparations. There is no special allowance. They're only allowed 20 kilograms of luggage each and are forced to leave a lifetime of possessions behind. At last, it's time to leave the camps. To mark the start of their long journey, the family is given blessings and good wishes by friends and neighbors. As they walk through the camp, they hand out small gifts of money. It's an emotional goodbye.
I don't tear up easily. I didn't even cry when lighting my mother's funeral pyre. I loved her very much. But I don't cry easily.
in the UN, there's often talk about burden sharing and so forth. And this has gone well beyond lip service on burden sharing, on international burden sharing. The resettlement countries have taken close to 90,000 refugees from Nepal. This is a remarkable story.
The first leg of these migrants' journey will take them to Nepal's capital, Kathmandu. And to get there, they'll have to take their first ever flight. On arrival, the family are moved to the Iron Center, where they'll spend the next few days. There are going to be many firsts for these refugees. The rules and regulations of international air travel are completely new to them, and they have much to learn.
Sir, would you like to have something to eat? Or drink? I will not speak your language, sir. Would you please help ask him what he would like to have? You see, tea, right? Okay, I'll be right back.
Finally, the day is here. After 23 years, Savitra and her family are leaving to start their new lives. I miss my parents the most. I was born to them in some corner of Bhutan. They gave me life and brought me into this world. I had to perform their last rites in this land. I wonder if their spirits will be with us in the United States. But that's how life is. And I'll have my children there with me. Life goes on like this, in steps. Maybe my children will have to leave me there. They'll probably feel the same way I'm feeling now. They'll feel bad that I was born somewhere, lived somewhere, and died somewhere else. Next week, the second of two special one-on-one programs will continue the journey with Savitra and her family as they set up home in the United States. And we'll meet many other Bhutanese refugees who have already made the move. And find that while this promises a fresh start, it's no guarantee of success. with many battling depression, and some even
Very good place, and they got the food, they got the money, they got the house, everything, but many people suicide.
taking their own
And there's many people said, okay, Nepal is better than here.
lives.
I recognize, they said Nepal is better than here. Because, this one, maybe the second one? No, not the same.
It's been described as a systematic effort.
Okay, just second one. I can't believe that they said, but Nepal is better than here. Right? This is second one.
It's been described as a systematic
This one.
ethnic cleansing. More than 100,000 blood samples or ethnic Nepalese
Okay, this is
were
part
forced out
two.
of Bhutan in the early 1990s after Bhutan's government cracked down on their culture and stripped them of their citizenship. The refugees languished in camps in eastern Nepal for the next 2 decades. With no option to return home, many refugees have chosen to move to third countries. More than 75,000 have been resettled in the US alone. But while this promises a fresh start, there is no guarantee of success, with many battling depression and some even taking their own lives. In the second of 2 special One One East programs, we continue the story of Bhutan's forgotten people. Today is the start of a new life for Sabitra Biswa. After 23 years of living in limbo in a refugee camp in Nepal, Sabitra has finally arrived in the city of Rochester, New York, her new home. With her is her daughter Radhika, son Amal and his wife Durga, and her 7-year-old granddaughter Aisha.
Welcome to America.
Buddha, a former Bhutanese refugee, helps resettle newcomers to Rochester. For the next 3 months, everything Sabitra's family needs, from housing to food stamps, will be organized by the resettlement agency. The first thing that Sabitra has to adjust to is the weather. Leaving the airport, the chill comes as a shock. Sabitra is on her way to reunite with her elder sister Pavitra, who was resettled in the US last year. She's anxious to see Pavitra's grandson. The 2 sisters raised their families next door to each other in the refugee camp in Nepal. The resettlement agency has found a house for Sabitra to rent right next door to her sister. But it's not ready yet. So for the next few weeks, the family will stay with her sister.
We Nepalese don't really hug, so we just looked at each other. I was so happy to see Pavitra's grandson. It's been so long. It's been good, and hopefully the coming days will be even better.
Countries like the United States began taking Bhutanese refugees 7 years ago. Many of Sabitra's former neighbors from the camps are here to welcome her. With 5 flights and 36 hours of travel to get here, it's been an exhausting journey.
36 hours.
Buddha shows them around the house. After living in a refugee camp without running water or electricity,
the family will need to adapt to many new habits. They're also shown how to use a refrigerator.
यसमा आलुहरू फ्रिजमा राखिराख्नु पर्दैन आलु एउटा त्यो भयो र जहिले पनि ख्याल गर्ने बेलुका अथवा काम सिकेपछि यो अफ होस् यो यो ठाडो होस् ल सबैको ठाडो कुरा अफ हुन्छ ख्याल गर्ने आगोमा विशेष ध्यान दिनुपर्ने हुन्छ किनभने तपाईँहरूको घरमा एकजना बच्चा पनि थियो बच्चाले गर्दाखेरि आगोमा धेरै ध्यान दिनु
Rochester, New York is a city of 210,000 people. 5,000 of those are Bhutanese refugees, and most of them work minimum wage jobs.
A lot of these cities in what we call the Rust Belt, these post-industrial cities that have had a lot of population loss, are bringing in refugees to both increase the tax base and to work in these
This is interesting, right? This is Rust Belt area. So people not living here. So vacant houses will going to be used for the refugees. This city is actually population 200,000, and 5,000 came from Nepal.
One Bhutanese refugee who has successfully moved beyond low-skilled jobs is Chaitnath Kimisina. He came to the US 5 years ago and is now an American citizen.
Life was very difficult, and transitioning to the US, that I'm able to buy a house here, I feel very amazed. Very excited.
Oh, this guy is a success person.
Okay, I have better jobs now, and I feel that I'm creating a better future for me and for sure for my kids.
Jade trained as a counselor and works with troubled youth. He is also a tax accountant and a certified interpreter. But in Bhutan, he had not been allowed to finish his education.
I passed the second level of education. I was eligible to join the college, but in order to gain admission in the college, the Nepali speaking students were asked to obtain more admission certificate.
But the Bhutanese police refused to give him the certificate. As the repression of Lotsampa's grew, Jade had to leave his family home forever.
The last occasion that I remember, and that deeply hurting me, and deep in my memories, I was just wondering when will I get back, whether I would get back into the same house.
Jaitnath resumed his education in Nepal while living as a refugee. He tells me this has helped him take advantage of the opportunities available in the US.
The main important thing for me is that we were able to work here legally. There is no restriction in what work we do and how many hours we do or what skill we choose. And there are no limitations depending upon your capability and your dedication. Life in the campus is very difficult, and fortunately I felt we have had this difficult life for like almost 2 decades, and I didn't want to put the future of my kids into jeopardy.
I think probably compared to some refugee populations, this is a group of people who have a certain flexibility. They're very resourceful. They're motivated. They have mastered languages. They've benefited from the education programs in the camps, which gives the kids a step up, I think, in terms of making that transition to the countries where they're going. I think these are strong factors for success.
The next day, we went back to see Savitra. Buddha is also here to explain what is expected of the family in the coming days and weeks.
यो क्यालेन्डरको पालना एकदम राम्रोसँग गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ एउटा एपोइन्टमेन्ट मिस भएर पनि हामीलाई बनाउनु पायो भने समय लाग्छ है त्यो भएर कुनै पनि यहाँ लेखिएको तपाईँहरूको एपोइन्टमेन्टहरू मिस नगरिदिनु तपाईँहरूले सोसल सेक्युरिटी कार्ड पर्टिकुलर जागिर खोज्नको लागि जागिर पाउनको लागि सोसल सेक्युरिटी कार्ड तपाईँहरू हुनुपर्छ है सोसल सेक्युरिटीको एपोइन्टमेन्ट तपाईँहरूको 29 तारिक छ त्यो भित्र सोसल सेक्युरिटी कार्ड आइसकेपछि चाहिँ तपाईँहरूले आफन्तबाट आफ्नो नेटवर्कबाट पनि कोहीसँग तपाईँको परिवारका सदस्यहरू कहीँ काम गर्दैछ भने त्यहाँ ठाउँ खाली छ भने
Savitra's family will be living in a predominantly Bhutanese community in Rochester. But even with their support, there will still be stumbling blocks ahead. Although she's just arrived, Savitra finds she has more friends here than back in Nepal.
किरापत्री रुङ्ने मान्छे पनि त्यति पाइँदैन अलिअलि भएका जम्मै यस्तो छन् यस्तो यस्तो लाउने सुन्ने डेन लाइट सुन्ने गाजा खाने
Savitra tells me that the US is not what she expected. There aren't any tall buildings here. They said they'd have very tall buildings, but I only see 2-story buildings.
So they are not satisfied staying here. But children can go to school, right? But they are not satisfied here. They said Nepal is better than here.
Maybe they're in town. Despite living in Rochester for a year, Savitra's sister has never been into the heart of the city.
She said into the heart of the city.
10 minutes drive away. We offered to take them there. But we soon get a taste of some of the difficulties Savitra could face.
हामीहरू त गर्थेँ आइपुगेर त नपढेका खुट्टाले हिँडेर सुनामा पुग्नुला भन्नुपर्ने गाडीमा लगेर हिँडादै लगेर घरमा कोठामा थुप्रो लाग्यो त्यो घरमा चढेर बस्नु छ नि लिफ्टमा पो जान्छ बहुत छ्यापा चढेर सिङ्गिया जाने त्यस्तो यस्तो गरेर कुद्नु त नसक्ने रहेछ म त रिङ्गटा लागेर नि आउँ झन्डै लडिनँ केटाले यसो समातेर तारेर समाउने त थियो नि त यसो टेकिसक्दा गइगयो अनि झन्डै लडिनँ नि के अरे निरास्त निवाक आएर त त्यो भएको छ कोही छैन साथीहरू नै हामीसँग आएको नि आफ्नो आफ्नोतिर लागिहाल्यो 5 जनाको परिवार मात्रै जाउँ पुरो बुझ्नु छैन ठ्याक्कै प्लेनको धङधङ छ त्यस्तै म त एकैत बेकारमा आइछु जे जस्तो अनि बस्नु पर्ने जस्तो लागेर मरिरहेको
Adjusting to a new country is not all that easy for older refugees like Savitra and her sister.
The number one problem is language. People between 55 and 64 years find it more difficult. They are more frustrated because they can't find work easily and don't earn much. The social service income or the government aid for senior citizens is only available for people of 65 years and above. So, if they can't work, they have to stay home. They're in a financial crunch and they get depressed.
Oh, the older person can get money. Young person, they cannot get money.
Food is daunting.
यो कता त्याग्छन् हो अब नि यो त्याग्न हेल्प गरेर कता हो केही सक्दैन
पहिलामा साह्रो थियो अब अहिले त जाइदै नेपाली
I gave Savita $30 to buy some groceries, but she's a little confused by the value of the new currency.
30 रुपैयाँ 40 रुपैयाँको सपिङ भन्छन् अनि मलाई त आँखै लागेछ 500 रुपैयाँ लिएर गएको यति पनि हुँदैन झोलामा नि अनि यहाँ त्यतिले सपिङ गरिएको भन्छन् अनि म त किन्नै नजान्छु
Savitra will soon get used to using American dollars instead of Nepali rupees. But it's the larger issue of cultural identity that makes many Bhutanese refugees struggle.
The Bhutanese in Rochester have yet to establish an organized community, and the church is the only place where they can meet regularly. So many have converted to Christianity to have a sense of belonging.
Refugees like Savitra fled Bhutan because of cultural persecution. But ironically, in the US, many have been quick to change their identity. Savitra's sister Pavitra has already converted to Christianity. Savitra and her family are here to see what the fuss is all about.
In the States, they have lots of kind of churches spread all over the United States. Because my former family is Taiwanese, okay, they have Taiwanese church. Taiwanese people going to church, the same people talking Taiwanese. Like this one is the same. This is Nepal people get together and communicate each other. By the way, they are paying 10% of annual income, 10% to church. Big money.
Let's see what happens. If our entire community turns Christian, then it will be quite hard to stay separate as a Hindu family. We'll have to wait and see for a few months.
Because they are going to introduce your job,
Find out what kind
everything.
of people gather there.
They're going to take care of you.
To learn from people who came here before us. These weekly gatherings have become a vital lifeline for many Bhutanese, who often find their American dreams don't match the reality. The refugees have a high suicide rate here, double that of the rest of the American public. Victims range from the elderly to teenagers, men and women.
When people come here, they have many plans. They hear the rumors of America back in the camp. If money growing on trees, you just pluck it. And living in big buildings. But when you come here, the reality is different. So there is a lot of frustration.
Hudariman is taking us to meet the family of a young man who committed suicide just a few months ago.
I still can't understand how and why it could have happened. Just a few days before, there was a festival and he had come to my house to sing songs. 3 days on, he was gone.
Madan had been in the US for 3 years and had a stable job. His baby daughter was just 17 days old, and his wife found him dead in the basement.
I heard her shouting, "Get up! Why are you sleeping here?" Then I heard her scream. I turned on the lights and saw the rope. I told her, "Don't touch him, he's gone." Then I called 911. I don't remember anything after that.
Madan's father, Lakshman Karnel, is at a loss why his son took his own life.
He never talked about depression, but he wanted to preserve our culture. He felt we had to celebrate all our festivals. He believed in having fun, and so he managed his work.
Okay, he said depression.
And his wife Durga.
Depression. 소우즈병. That's the reason why self-suicide.
And her 7-year-old granddaughter Aisha.
Welcome to America.
Buddha Rima, a former Bhutanese refugee, helps resettle newcomers to Rochester. For the next 3 months, everything Sadhika's family needs, from housing to food stamps, will be organized by the resettlement agency. The first thing that Sadhika has to adjust to is the weather. Leaving the airport, the chill comes as a shock.
You're still just kids.
What am I supposed to do with my life now?
The world has...
I wonder what those children are going through. They're still just kids. And now I've realized we shouldn't have come to America. In Nepal, even if we were eating nothing but barley flour and water, at least we had our own culture there, our language. We could express our sorrows loud and clear in our own tongue. But over here, we need an interpreter to tell people how we feel.
The world has also collapsed around Madan's 21-year-old widow, Ishwara.
Everyone's fate is written, but I would not even wish my enemies go through this. It still feels like a bad dream. I still have his school certificates and everything. I felt like throwing them away, but then I feel like he might return and that this is all just a dream I'll wake up from.
The couple had saved $30,000 and had plans to buy a house.
What am I supposed to do with my life now? It's really hard living alone. I don't know what happened to my husband. I have so many questions for him. Once I'm able to raise my child and I die as well, I will ask him everything. I've got so many questions for him. What did I do? If it was something I did, he could have told me. I loved him. I married him and came here with him because I loved him.
Today, resettlement agencies are focusing more on the mental health of refugees. Almost 20% of Bhutanese here suffer from depression. Buddha thinks that the
20%. 소우즈병.
When we talk about mental health services,
I couldn't believe it because this is a good place, good house, good location, education, healthcare, everything.
They think of it as a place to take insane people.
The reason is simple. People to people, they can make a communication in Nepal. But here is everybody isolated.
So they're scared to speak out.
They can speak English,
They
right?
think it's only for people with severe mental problems. So they think they're fine. They only
They have
see
mental
mental health
problem.
in a negative light.
Like my wife, you know, mental problem, depression.
The suicides
Very
have cast
risky.
a shadow over the refugee program and the community. Jaiknath says some of the problems refugees face are the result of decades of living in limbo.
People who have been in camps
In limbo, どっちつかずの状態.
at that certain level of depression already existing for many years, and when they get additional issues which they are not able to handle on their own.
Okay, additional issues they cannot handle by themselves. Then
they
kill.
feel very, very vulnerable and may not take a good decision.
And memories are hard to leave behind.
Even when we lie down in bed for sleeping, we just vividly feel the hard times we have had as partners. And it's very difficult to take it out from the mind. And coming to the US, although we had many freedoms in the US, the hope of becoming a citizen one day, it appears to many people it's still very vague. You have nothing in hand. All you have is the right to work, the freedom to work, and earn money and settle for their family.
Many Bhutanese have found new freedom after moving to the US. Others find that even in the land of opportunity, they still dream of the land they left behind and long for that home. For Savitra, though, life is full of optimism. We have to go out and work now. We came here so that we'd make something of ourselves, and if we just stay idle, we won't really be able to do anything. Let's see how the coming days turn out. We can't guarantee how our days will be. It's a new place, almost a new creation. Our life starts anew now. Don't you think this is a new life for us?
So it's very difficult to making a judge for the refugees is what kind of situation is the best. But they stay in Nepal for 23 years, no water, no medicine, nothing else, no food. But many people said Nepal was better than better than the United States. Here in the United States they have a house and everything else, but they lost communication people to people, right? So it's very difficult, thinking situation. How we're going to consider for this situation is. Okay, this is. Well, this one is article. We can see how I look, but I don't show some article here. Then this is now I just finished for Southeast Asia. Oh no, South Asia. Then I'm going to get into Middle East, but I finished Turkey. I spent a lot of time to write down the Turkey description. Beforehand I didn't have this one, but I summarized it. And I just summarized Turkey is moving from NATO to Russia. They bought weapon from Russia, and they tried to join the Shanghai Organization of China. They decided. We are not sure when Turkey will going to switch from Western world to Eastern world. So Miss Siebel is a special opinion. It's a normal opinion. She is not normal opinion she has, but I understand what she is talking about. Also, Erdogan making 1,000 room palace for their presidential house. Okay. But they accepted 3.5 million refugees from Syria. Okay. And so many things I just write it down for this relationship with Israel, relationship with Japan, and sort of things. And finally, what direction Turkey will going to? It's very difficult question. But this country is democracy except freedom of speech. The other thing is very good for living, but they have a lot of problem because this country is in the middle of all relating countries like Europe and South Asia and Middle East, and they just in the middle of those countries. So this country is not stable. And this one is article of Wikipedia in English Wikipedia, and this is presidential house. And also, I just put on this is additional explanation. Then, and this is I just showed you before. Cool. And why the world is worried about Turkey, and sort of, this I explained from NATO to the Russia. And the history. Atatürk is Erdogan tried to parallel of the Atatürk in future. And Turkey is 50 things about Turkey. I just basic information I just give you. And also the EU-Turkey relationship, and they try to study to, but actually they cannot. This is a former ambassador talking about complaining just the EU and EU accession. They cannot. And this is Syrian youth, women refugees in Turkey, and they have skill training. Japanese government tried to put money for their training. This one, making clothing skill, making clothing skill, and also I just NATO, taught NATO they exist. New Turkey-Russian alliance is just a little bit. This is Shanghai, Shanghai Association something. They don't this in English, but okay. And then this one is exactly Sibyl Edmonds. I like her. She's very educated lady, and also James Corbett, and Spiro Scholars. I remember 3 people, and just Ohashi prepared Japanese, but I changed a lot. Upgraded the contents, okay? So this is a word, but basically from here he prepared the sentences. I changed a lot, changed a lot. But narratives, I listened to this video many times, and 30 pages, and I put on slide like this, and many slide, and put on time, and original what she is talking is very not clear, so we need some add comment and some surveyed information, and 30 pages like this add information. Okay, this is add information like this. And Syria, Turkey, we just put on chat here. And also Syria refugees crisis, something information. This is Syria, this is Turkey. Okay. And this is refugee camp. 350 million here, like this. Huge, okay. Not like Rohingya. More than that. The same. This is Israel. And history of coup in Turkey, 60, 71, 80, 97 they had, and then now they have 4 coups. And this is who backs ISIS and how. And Turkey, the what kind of involvement? Saudi Arabia supported to ISIS, Qatar, Israel, UK, and every what kind of compete against each other. But unfortunately, I didn't. It's really difficult to read this one. I think what I'm going to do is this is too big. Oh, this is too big. Oh my God. Yes. Okay. Okay, this one. And what we're going to do is right here. Oh. So you can do this, right?
Yes.
And moving up. And okay. Okay, like this. Okay, so this is now you can read it more clearly, right? And Turkey-Israel energy corridor. This is Turkey, is Israel. It's going down. Okay, this is just okay. Kurdistan, okay, and Kurdistan relationship. They have many Kurdistan. I don't explain now, but they have which one is favor for Turkey, which one is not favor for Turkey. They have dependent Kurdistan different. And then also why Hitler here is because she said some okay, you know, like Hitler said, you repeat any lie 50 times, 100 times, it becomes a fact and people are going to go and repeat it. That's exactly what we have been seeing. For example, if you were to put it statistically, the number of journalists, jail, torture, something, so on, so Hitler said the same thing. Make that lie big, make it simple, keep saying it, and eventually they will believe it. Adolf Hitler. Okay, it's like this. And okay, like add comment something. So huge. I spent lots of time, you know. So huge. And also surveyed. Why kind of she says like this? I surveyed and put on sentences here. Ah, my goodness. Okay. Haji spent a lot of time anyway.
Wow.
I changed many sentences. Oh my God, you know, go. Oh my God, this is 45 minutes. Then, also he write down in Japanese. But also I changed Japanese a lot. Many sentences, many sentences.
Wow.
In total 30 pages, okay, because I don't. Okay. This one is I didn't show you. This one is I didn't show you. This is Turkey Ottoman song. I didn't show you this. I like this one. Did you see this before? Very famous one. Chetin Dedin. Chetin Dedin. Very famous. Everybody, enemy, listen this music, everybody escape. Turkey army so strong. He likes it. Edron likes this song. It's the Ottoman Empire. Okay, so next week I'm going to study Iraq. But before Iraq, I have one more video remaining for Myanmar. This we're going to show you next week. And also we are going to add some more comment Aung San Suu Kyi's current thinking after Pope returned from Myanmar. And Iraq is another interesting. Is after Saddam Hussein killed, then they get into the ISIL, they occupy this country, and lots of things. Okay, this is very interesting story in Iraq. And they also need Kurdish independent movement, sort of things. Okay? Any question today? Oh, she didn't come today.
Oh.
But okay. Takashi also didn't join. Hmm?
It's a cute. 朝じゃないですか。あれ、See you またよろしくお願いし
ます。これ、not today. 今日じゃないよね、これ。
昨日で月曜か。
これ、今日じゃないよね。OK。Okay.